Hello everyone and welcome back to the IS Network lecture series on discussing ethics case studies asked by UPSC. So we are there in our last lecture where we would be discussing our latest case study from 2019 question paper. So till now we have discussed till 2018 one case study from each year, and basically we have tried to cover different kind of case studies which includes some of whistleblowing, some of ethical dilemmas, similarly some involving different stakeholders, and we have tried to cover different dimensions, be it from the corporate sector or be it from the public services domain, or be it in terms of general case studies which are dealing with a personal decision. Similarly, this case study is related to a leadership role, and especially in a rescue operation or a disaster kind of a scenario. So this you can relate to as well, because even in today's kind of scenario where we are dealing with a national level hazard or a disaster in some sense in terms of the COVID pandemic. So let's try and discuss this case. So you are heading the rescue operations in the areas affected by severe natural calamity. Thousands of people are rendered homeless and deprived of food, drinking water, and other basic amenities. Rescue work has been disrupted by heavy rainfall and damage to supply routes. So basically, it's the typical scenario where a natural calamity has taken place and it has led to disruptions of the various basic necessities, basic services, and the local people are seething with anger against the delay in the limited rescue operations. So, as we all know, that even the rescue would need some basic infrastructure, because, for example, if you have to reach a destination where the disaster has taken place, you need proper roads to reach that. For example, an earthquake has taken place and the complete road connectivity, rail connectivity has been disrupted to that place. So it limits even the capability of the disaster management forces in order to supply various provisions, etc., to that location. So it has led to people being alienated. They are furious on the fact that even in their dilapidated condition, the help is not reaching them on time. When your team reaches the affected area, the people there heckle and even assault some of your team members. So this might very easily happen in a practical scenario where the people are frustrated with the situation they are caught up in. They have suffered personal losses, property losses, and their own mental as well as physical state is not at the best. And then if there are delays in terms of rescue operations and relief operations, it might tip them over, and basically they might take a violent route where they have even assaulted a rescue team member, which is basically hampering their own recovery, their own relief operation. One of your team member is even severely injured. Faced with this crisis, some team members plead that you to call off the operation, fearing threats to their life. So basically your team members are appealing that you should call off this operation itself, because they value that their life is at stake in this operation. And when the people itself whom they are trying to help are working against them, then it beats the purpose of the operation itself. This is the thought process of the team members. In such trying circumstances, what will be your response? Examine the qualities a public servant which will be required to manage this kind of a situation. So basically they are asking you for your approach in order to tackle such kind of a situation, and what are the qualities that a person should have in order to deal with such kind of situation. So that's the case support. So now let's try and solve this case study. So in order to solve this case study, we have to basically try and see that what is the underlying theme that is being asked in the case study. As we have witnessed that you are in a leadership kind of a position in this case, you are heading the team. So basically your leadership skills are being at test. So now you have to understand first of all that what does a leader signify? A leader versus manager debate is quite common. A manager is basically someone who utilizes or efficiently utilizes the resources available in order to have the maximum output. So his focus is basically on efficiency. Whereas a leader is basically a much broader term, where the abilities of a leader is basically to provide a vision and a mission to the organization, to basically get the optimum out of his team members. He is basically able to motivate the team members to derive the maximum out of them. So basically, now all these skills are under this scenario are being tested. So you can very easily give some introduction regarding leadership in this case. So you can very easily say that leaders are born in the times of crisis. So basically, this is the time where you need to show your leadership skills. You need to come to the forefront and lead by example. So basically, now this could be your overarching statement in order to begin the case study. Now let's try and look at what are the stakeholders involved in the case study. So because you need to manage all of them in order to find a sustainable solution. So you yourself are a stakeholder in this. Similarly, the government is a stakeholder. Your team members are a stakeholder. And similarly, the affected people are an important stakeholder. So these four are the major stakeholders involved in this case. Now let's try and look at the various interests of these stakeholders. So they have basically their own life. Personal well-being is one of their interests. Similarly, another interest of theirs is basically rescue and relief, or social service, or professional commitment. Similarly, the affected, their main interest is basically survival or rehabilitation. The government's role would be basically minimizing the damage. Situation handling. My own priorities could be managing the team, managing the morale of the team. Carry out the rescue operation. Ensure the welfare of the team. So these are you can very easily mention the interest of the various stakeholders involved in the case as well. So this could be your introduction. Now the main body part of the case is basically your response to the situation which is being asked. Now we must understand what do we mean by response. Response is basically two components. That is your reaction to the situation plus your action to the situation. So basically it's not a on the spot reaction to the situation. So it's a response is basically a reasoned out plan of action where your emotions as well as your logic is playing a key role. So you are reacting to the situations on the ground as well as taking a streamlined course of action based on the inputs that you are getting. So that is what your response is. So your response should be targeted at multiple levels. So you have to understand that there are two major actors that you have to deal with, which have been understood through the stakeholders as well. So two major players whom you have to deal with is your team members as well as the affected people. So your approach towards the team member is what would come first, because they are the primary people that you have to convince, because without taking them on board it's not possible to conduct the rescue operation. Now you know that one of your team member has been injured, so you need to first of all give him medical treatment. That is paramount. Then comes the situation at hand. You have to basically try and understand what is the morale of the your team and basically try to boost that. So how would you do that? So in order to do that, you have to first of all uh, make them understand what is the mental situation of the affected. So basically you have to reason that out, because they are having a negative attitude now towards the rescuing operation. So you need to have target the cab components. So cognitively you have to try to reason that and try to justify that their reaction is understandable, because they are under a distress kind of a situation where they are taking such action. It's not that they have anything against you, it's just that they are feeling helpless, and under the testing circumstances they are giving away to their emotions. Okay, now this would be your cognitive component. For the affective component, you have to make an emotional appeal. So you can give a short motivational speech to them. So basically you need to enthusiase them in order to carry their function. You can make them remember of their oath. Why did they join the service itself? They were always ready to put their life at risk in order to rescue other people, because they found merit in this work. They found merit in the appeal of the work itself. So you can very easily to uh, try to basically bring it to their notice, their own personal agendas behind joining this service. So they decided to work for this national disaster response primarily because of their own internal motivation. Similarly, you can argue that through the sense that altruism is logical. As you can very easily argue it from the Kant's universality principle. You can convince them that it's very easily possible that some other day your own family members might be stuck in some other kind of a disaster kind of a situation. You will definitely expect someone to save them in spite of anything that happens on the ground. So now it's upon you in order to replicate that behavior. Now, to get the behavior and affect component into running, you need to play the role model. So be the role model, because a leader has to lead from front as well many a times. So you basically continue, you give them a permission of voluntary exiting the rescue operation, but you will not leave the ground. So this would basically enthuse them and give them certain level of confidence that our leader is staying the ground, is taking a stand in this scenario. Now apart from this, now if you have dealt with their attitudinal change, now comes the operations in terms of ensuring that this kind of scenario does not take place again. Because one person has been injured, you need to take some safety precautions. For example, proper medical kit or first aid should be there with the personnel itself. You need to have some equipments, for example helmets, life-saving jackets, etc., available with the uh, team members, so that even if some kind of violence is uh, resorted to by the people, it should not hamper the well-being of the team members itself. So this would even infuse some confidence in the team members that yes, our leader is taking due cognizance of our own personal well-being as well. Now this would tackle the problem of the team members. Now we need to shift our focus towards the affected people. So basically they are having, so in order to deal with the affected people, you have to look into the factor that you have to take care of their rescue and relief. At the same time, you have to fulfill their grievances or address their grievances as well, due to which they have basically taken the violent route. So first of all, you need to put in some communication channel where you can have a proper conversation at regular. Identify some leaders with whom you can have a conversation and basically who can manage the emotions of the people on the ground. Now you need to keep them informed through this communication channel. There needs to be continuous information of what you are doing, so that the people have the trust that you are doing all the possible things within your merit in order to bring rescue and relief to the people. Now through this communication channel itself, you invite their suggestion or have a participative approach. So that you basically have a proper grievance redressal. It might be possible that you are delivering certain goods which the people do not feel is very much necessary at this moment of time, whereas some other necessity is being overlooked. So through this participative approach, you can very easily address their grievances as well. Now comes your role in terms of providing relief and rescue. So there needs to be some safe houses being created. Safe houses, medical supplies, food and drinking water, which needs to be ensured. Similarly, depending on the situation on the ground, if the situation is beyond your capacity, you should ask the state government for backup as well as some support to deal with the situation, be it in terms of your personnels, be it in terms of monetary, or be it in terms of amenities. So all these kind of support could be sought from the state government in if the situation is beyond your capacity. Similarly, there needs to be 24/7 availability of some or the other player on the ground, so that basically the trust and credibility is there. And you should, I would myself stay at that location, so that they know that the leadership is committed to their cause. So this would be my response. Now the third part of the question was basically seeking what are the qualities needed in this scenario. So the qualities needed would be all the qualities that are essential for basically playing a leadership role. So a leader should have emotional intelligence, because he should be able to appreciate the emotions of the others as well as his own, and basically overcome or manage them successfully. Like in this case, we were able to manage the emotions of the team members. We need to enthuse them towards their goal as well as address their security consideration. Similarly, dedication, because you should not be running out of that site. You should take the lead role. You should be playing the role model in this scenario, leading from the front. Similarly, compassion. Compassion for the people who have been caught in that disaster, for the vulnerable people, because that would be the guiding force behind you taking such a risk, as well as your team members taking such a risk of their own life in order to save the life of the others. Yet another trait could be courage, because risking your own life takes a lot of courage to deal with such kind of disasters. So these could be the leadership skills or qualities that could be mentioned in such a case. So you can end the case with something related to leadership. Again, so you can give a generalized definition also, or you can even quote the importance of EI by Daniel Goleman. Or even you can give some Disaster Management Act reference to conclude your answer, or a current event which you can quote. So all these kind of examples could be given as a conclusion. So let's try and recapitulate that what we discussed in this case study. So we had understood, so your introduction and conclusion should be targeting the core theme of the case study, which in this case was the leadership role or the leadership skills. So we had given an introduction displaying what leadership in essence means, or basically what is the difference between a leader and a manager. So he should be able to give a vision and a mission to the organization, and he needs to motivate and get the optimum out of the team members. So it's basically the role is of personality management and a team management, rather than managing them as simple resources and optimizing their output. So we can give as we have given an introduction, that leaders are born in times of crisis. So this situation is testing my leadership skills. So we had discussed through the various stakeholders, their interests. Now the main body of the question was related to the response. Response should have been split across the two major stakeholders that are needed to be addressed, your team members as well as the affected people. Both have certain kind of attitudinal issue in this scenario, which could be catered by the CAP model. We had tried to argue that through reason as well as some emotional touch to that appeal, so as to basically introduce a attitudinal change. And we had addressed the safety concerns of the affected team members as well. Similarly, towards the affected people, we had tried to change their attitude by cognitive component in terms of setting a communication channel, informing that about each and every step that is being taken. Similarly, affective component was targeted through providing all the necessary medical aid, etc. 24/7 availability of a personnel is going to reinforce their trust and credibility in the system. Similarly, qualities, we had discussed emotional intelligence, dedication, compassion and courage. And we can end the case with certain quote regarding leadership or disaster management act, etc. So through this case study, we have tried to look at another kind of case study which deals with their leadership role. So in leadership kind of case studies, you have to innovate, you have to exhibit that yes, you possess certain level of leadership skills. You are not limited to being a team player itself. You need to take the charge in these kind of situations, lead from the front, and you are able to motivate your team members into fulfilling a common vision and a mission. So that would be all from this case study. And if you need some help at various copy evaluations as well as notes, you can refer to the IS Network website. Thank you and have a nice day.